Welcome to the podcast. It's My Favorite CPA. Of course, it's CPA Dan Hodges from myfavoritecpa.com. Today, I have one of my favorite friends here in town, and that is Dr. Jimmy LaRowe of Abundance. Jimmy, would you tell my friends and followers a little bit about you and Abundance?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks so much, Dan. I'm super thankful, excited to be on here with you. I am a doctor of occupational therapy and life coach. I'm a life strategist, help people find ways to live life to the fullest. And really what it comes down to is love. So finding ways to love at the highest level. Yeah.
Amazing.
It's been super fun.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So I want to come back to the coaching, to the life coaching thing. Not everyone knows what an occupational therapist does.
Yes.
They might get confused. I'm sure. Have you encountered this before? Are you a
Oh, man.
Are you a therapist? Are you a physical therapist? You're an occupational therapist.
Right.
Tell us what that means. What is it in real world terms?
Right. No, I love that. This is my little elevator pitch for every patient that I go in to see when I do home health. So that's another thing that I do. Work with different agencies, home health agencies. Okay. And they contract with Abundance Life Coaching on the therapy side. And they use me as that therapist, right?
So when you say home health, this would be like when someone gets discharged from
the rehab hospital. Yes. And then they're at the house, but they're still homebound, right? Yep. Let's say they had a stroke, they've lost half their body, they're getting some of it back. Oof. And now it's our opportunity to change that for them.
Yeah,
right?
Both physically and is it hard to be upbeat when you've had a stroke or some major medical catastrophe?
100%. Yeah, and that's another thing too. I mean, we can talk about it later if you like, but it's called Matching and Mirroring by Dr. Erickson. Okay. And when
this is foundational to your thinking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or to all occupational therapists.
It would be if they knew about it. Yeah, for sure. It's just building rapport, right? Deep connection with somebody, so that you can actually rapport gets you in the door. So that's where that kind of is. But when they ask about occupational therapy, I always show them, like, a lot of them, I don't need a job, because that's what everybody thinks when they hear occupation. Right. I say occupations are not just a job. Occupation is anything that occupies your time.
Your daily living.
Yeah. Well, look at the social interaction. That's an occupation, what we're doing right now. Right. Your occupation of running your podcast. Your occupation of pulling your pants on and off, which a lot of people take for granted when they lose half of their body. Yeah. Right? If you do that now. Right. So that's kind of occupations when it comes to occupational therapy. And the way I explain to them beyond that part is that we specialize more in the brain and the neuromuscular connections. We're more like top part, where physical therapists get more bottom. Okay. And then I'll tell them, like, so in an inpatient rehab setting, physical therapists will get you walking again. Occupational therapist will make sure that you're not walking down the hallway naked. Oh. Yeah. And that could be because you have a traumatic brain injury. Okay. Because you literally can't dress yourself because you have half your body, all that type of stuff.
Is it synaptic connections and getting the neurons firing?
Yeah, exactly. Reconnecting the muscles that were lost in connection to the brain. Yeah. So that neuromuscular connection we help with. Or let's say outpatient. That's a good one to go over too. So maybe the physical therapist will get you to the door, but the occupational therapist will teach you how to open the door. Okay. Right? So PT gets you walking again. Occupational therapist will make sure that you're not walking down the hallway naked. Or physical therapist gets you to the door. Occupational therapists teach you how to open the door. And it could not just be pronation and supination, being able to open it physically. It could also be a door to your mind. Okay. Right? Because we actually specialize in mental health and wellness, because that's where OT started. In World War II, Eleanor Clark Schlegel, the mother of occupational therapy, actually took several veterans who were suffering from PTSD, shell shock at the time, and they were debilitated, 100% dependent. She took them from 100% dependent to 100% independent.
Independent.
Yeah, with habitual loop training, metacognition, meaningful occupations. So they were doing gardening, seeing how they can take something from a seed to a fruitful plant, and just like the ing part of healing instead of healed, like all that is so beautiful.
This is all about restoring someone from just being alive to having a life worth living. I'm not saying that any life isn't worth living. That's well said. If you're down in the in the valleys, it's like trying to pull you back up.
Yeah, that's well said. 100%. Wow. Because like they were living to survive, right? Even mentally, and then we can help them switch the door and go into living to thrive. Yeah.
Wow.
There's no easy task, but it's possible.
How did you get into occupational therapy, and what did you do before OT?
Yeah, absolutely. So I went to Wabash College in Crawfordsville, Indiana, and I went there to wrestle. That's what I wanted to do. And it's crazy too, is I was excited about it, but I never had the mindset of a champion. So my first tournament on Iowa, I got second. And so they're like, okay, great. That's really good. But I always got second or third or fourth, like top of the tournament, but never first. And it's like, why? It's because of what I believed about myself. That I was not enough, that I wasn't lovable, that I was a mistake from God. That's what I've done all that work to find that now, but I didn't know it then, right? And so that's kind of what my journey was. And then 2011.
You had some self-doubt.
Yes, 100%. Or even too much respect for the other. Like if I knew you were a senior and before you won nationals.
In your mind,
yeah,
you just made that bigger.
Yeah, I'd be hesitant. I'd shake your hand. I'd be hesitant. I wouldn't wake up till the third period, and then I'd lose to you by 1 or 2.
Right.
It's like, what would have happened had you turned it on in the beginning?
And you might have, were there cases where you might have been a better athlete, but it was all,
for sure.
The game started up here.
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
So coming out of this, you decided you centered on occupational therapy.
Yeah. Yeah, part of my story is like that April 10th, 2011, I was in a head-on car collision. I wasn't supposed to live, walk, or use my hand again, anything like that.
I wish we had pictures of this to show.
Oh, I can give them to you.
Because I've heard about this before.
Yeah, I can definitely give them to you.
So you were in a head-on collision.
Yeah.
And were you pinned in? They had to do like all the Jaws of Life and that kind of deal?
Well, that's what they said. I don't remember. Yeah. They did the Jaws of Life, pulled me out, and then 5 paramedics had to take me down because I was fighting everybody, I guess.
You were?
Yeah, because my ulna, my radius came through my arm here and broke off.
Ooh, that is
My wrist was powder, collarbone ripped off my sternum, my lung was punctured, my leg was smashed on the engine that was in the front seat with me.
What were you driving?
Ford Focus ZTE, 2003.
It's a teeny tiny car.
Very tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
What do you drive nowadays?
Well, I was driving a Chevy Volt, 2017.
Yeah, that's right.
And yesterday, somebody crossed the line on Lima and smashed me. Head-on collision.
Oh my gosh.
So that's literally last night.
So my colleague said you had like a big swollen eye or something. I thought you were going to come in with black eyes.
Yeah, I think it looks good now.
You look good to me.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, but I had a partial dislocation of my radius, so that's a little sore. But coming along.
Or in this recent thing. But going back to that accident back in the day, this was foundational.
Oh, 100%. Here, I don't know if you need to cut this or not, but I'll let you see. And then I can give these to you as well. So you could maybe pop them up there. But if you just slide down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
There's nothing left of this car.
Yeah.
And this is you?
Mm-hmm. I was in a coma for 7 days.
You look like
I don't remember 5 weeks in the hospital.
You ever see, like Walking Dead?
No, I haven't. But is that what I look like?
Not far off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
So you had this life-changing car wreck.
Yeah.
And how did you keep your attitude up? You have arms that are broken and a punctured lung and your shoulder.
Yeah. You know, I've always been blessed with joy in some way because happiness depends upon what happens. It's circumstantial. Yet joy is something that's internal. It's a light in you, and you can call upon it whenever you want. Okay. And I had that at a young age. And, then I found God in my own way, and that's where everything just kind of took off for me.
Okay.
Kind of took the perspective to the next level. I think Connor Brummett's a really good piece of my story where he was going through some mental opportunities as well, and he came to me. And because of his vulnerability, I was able to grow with him. But what he said, and the reason I share this, is that he said, no matter what, 5 a.m. practice, whatever it is, you come in with this giant smile on your face. Like, how do you do that? And I said, well, I've learned, Paul tells me, that it's the way that we view our circumstances that's more important than the circumstances themselves.
Right.
So I was on that hospital bed. I remember that I was still blessed then. I think of the guy that's paralyzed from the shoulders down, who yesterday was playing with his 3 beloved children, or the girl that's 10 years old that has stage 4 cancer and has 2 more days to live. God showed me that I'm still blessed. So I live every day knowing that I'm not promised tomorrow. I can't do much about yesterday. So I live right here, right now, trading my attitude for gratitude.
Bam.
And that's the attitude right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
So did Did that drive your decision to go into occupational therapy?
Yeah, I was a patient myself.
Okay.
So they took a lot of meaningful occupations because I was stuck like this, like just totally immobilized. And I went from 187 pounds of the fastest, strongest person that I know today still to 140.
Ooh.
I was a skeleton, right? And I couldn't move. My hands were just
you're tall.
stuck.
You're like...
Yeah.
That would be...
I was a skeleton for sure, yeah. And so going through all that, like they used cards, all these things to get me enough supination to be able to play guitar again. Like meaningful occupations that fueled my recovery.
Right.
And they got my mind off of it.
Yeah.
Mind into new things, because where focus goes, energy grows.
Yeah.
And so when we really realize that, it's like, wait a minute, what's the quality of the questions that I ask myself then? Because it's like, why me? No. What for?
What for?
What's it for? Right? Or why am I not successful? No. How can I be successful? Mm-hmm. That's the real question. Because now I'm focused on what to do instead of why I'm not. Yeah.
Instead of a negative slant.
Exactly.
It's more forward focused.
Well said, forward focused. And I think a lot of people think that positive is always the answer, and that's not true either, because that's called mania.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's manic.
Yeah.
And if I am so excited and everything, blah, 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 it's like, okay, that's great. Negatives are still there.
Right.
And we have got to acknowledge them.
Yes.
Right? Now, not perseverate and remain in them. It's just how can you recognize the problem to turn it into what's called an opportunity? Mm-hmm. And that's what I think is different from positive to a neutral gratitude, in a way to transform and reframe your mind.
So I want to change the subject just a little bit.
Sure.
You know, I'm sure there's at least someone in my audience, in my crowd here, that is thinking, I'm kind of interested in occupational therapy.
Absolutely.
What would you tell someone, you know, in high school or early college about occupational therapy? What would you tell someone getting into that field?
Yeah.
Do you think is there any opportunity, or is it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. OTs are needed all over the place.
Okay.
And we're called the unicorns of therapy.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, the physical therapists, they're the more biomechanical, the structured, and they're so needed. I say we're cousins, right?
Okay.
We're needed in the workplace. And so they're more of the biomechanical, the physiological, whereas we are more of the creative, the mind, all that type of stuff. And so when you pair those up together, that synergy is beautiful.
Absolutely.
And so
it's like a symphony.
It is a symphony. Yeah, it's a harmony, right?
Yeah.
And so when that happens, that's when you can really grow in your recovery, because it's cool using your therapeutic use of self to help them too. Mm-hmm. And so if somebody was asked me, what was the question? Like, why should I get into occupational therapy?
What would you tell someone getting into occupational therapy?
I would say study psychology.
Okay.
So like, see if that interests you. So social psych is a good place to start. Because there's...
Would you say that this runs...
100%. Yeah, big time. Yeah.
Right.
Social psych is probably, if not the most influential for occupational therapy. So there's proximal answers, which is behavioral neuroscience, understanding how the hippocampus works with the amygdala, how mammillary tracts and the basal ganglia system all go together to form this stuff. But then distal answers are far away. So that's like, as a football player, what is the crowd doing to you, right? What does your teammates do? Like those are all distal answers. They're not in here. No. But they affect what's in here. So it can.
Unless you can block it out.
Right. And that's the social psychology stuff. So that's what I would say is like study that, and then see if you are more of a creative person or if you're more of a structured physical person. Because like both are great. And we overlap a lot with OT and PT. Okay. And for me, I just think that OT spoke to me because it's more of the brain. Yeah. More of the brain, the fine motor dexterity, and just the minutia details with that. I'm obsessed with it. So
I forgot to mention at the opening of the podcast that the series we're on is called The Business Of. So this is the business of occupational therapy. So I am going to hit you with a surprise question.
For sure.
Because I'm a CPA, and, you know, I like to get my microscope out, my magnifying glass anyway. Yeah. And you don't have to tell us all the micro details.
Sure.
Is there any money in occupational therapy?
There is.
Can you make a living?
Yes.
Can you put food on the table?
Yes.
Okay, let's start there.
I'd say median salary is about $77,000 a year. Mm-hmm. And then, so that's you working a W-2.
Right.
9 to 5.
Yep.
If you want to get crazy, you can talk to Warrior Tax Services to figure out what is your tax DNA. because we are not all the same.
Right.
We can't just slap on an S corp or whatever that might be for them to do that.
An LLC.
So, yeah, I always recommend that. Yeah, just form an LLC and you're good. It's like no. Go figure out your tax DNA with Warrior Tax Services.
Yep.
And then from there, you can find out how you can be more entrepreneurial, because there is the opportunity no matter what.
Yep.
And so whether you're going to contract with different agencies and be the mediator.
Is that where the opportunity is? So you come from being an employee into self-employment and business.
100%.
And when you emerge into business, there's opportunity.
Yes.
So could a guy make, depending on what area you're in the country or how hard you're working it, is it unlimited how much a guy can make, or?
Oh yeah, and especially if you structure it that way.
Yeah.
So some people like the salary; they like the comfort of it.
Right.
They enjoy
having a paycheck
the certain
every other
hours,
Friday. Yep.
But you cannot scale.
Someone telling them where to go and what to do.
Exactly.
Yep.
So that's your fun. You get to choose your hard. Right.
Right.
And so if you want to choose your hard in the beginning, forming whatever tax situation you want to, but you are the entity, and you can find a way to where you are the source.
Yes.
So now they can pay you per visit. So now actually I am compensated for what I produce.
So the more people you see, the harder you work, so to speak, the more you make.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or even if it is less patients, if you can enhance the quality and the outcomes, that increases their HCAP scores.
Okay.
And so that's really good for like surveys and like different home health agencies and like.
So that makes you more desirable to the.
Exactly. So then you're the choice when a physician wants to pick what home health agency are they going to go with.
Gotcha.
Hey, they got Jimmy.
Right.
Send them there.
Right.
Because I had this patient, this, and this.
HCAP.
Send them there. Yeah.
So
that's what I would say is like
it's about taking care of the patients, but 100%. It's also the business of OT and medicine is also, it's about the money.
100%. Yeah. And that's another thing too, is like, you get to choose your heart. Like, do you want to be comfortable and just do the hourly thing? Or are you willing to take a risk? Because you're not promised patients.
No.
For instance, I was just talking with a home health agency. They've got so many systems going right now, so many different things that you got to check off. And it's very, like, I have to do 3 things to do 1 thing. And it's very repetitive. And so I told him, I was like, listen, it's starting to take too much of my time.
Right.
I'm going to have to give my day to a different agency now. Yeah. And that was literally like not too long ago. And so I'm glad that I had that conversation, because most people would just stick with it. Yep. I'll just figure it out. No. You don't have to do that. No. There's different routes.
When you're your own thing, you can make a decision like, this isn't working for me.
Yes.
But maybe you can find someone else to fill that.
Amen.
I'm going to this.
Right. Yeah. And let's say too, like the people that want to work the 9 to 5, okay, they will abuse you most of the time. I'm not going to say that every time. Okay. So don't hold me to that. But that's what happened to me, right? They said $90,000 a year, right? And I drove to 11 different counties. You're running ragged. 11 counties. Yeah. I drove 98,000 miles in 1 year.
That's crazy.
1 year.
Wow.
It was so crazy. And like, I loved it though. I was like, great. I'm getting paid $90,000 a year. Yeah. I get to listen to podcasts. Yeah. I get to like grow all the time. And then I see these patients, all these different places. So I was justifying everything. And that's what most of us will do. Right. Because my cognitive dissonance. Yep. I have to make an external or internal justification to why I'm doing this. And so that's what I would say to everybody else that's listening, is that you don't have to just go in the motion. You can find a way to be an entrepreneur for them to be able to pay you accordingly. And that's when, like I said, will there be times where the census is low? Yes.
Get paid commensurate to your, I had the words, I lost it. You're paid commensurate to your results.
Exactly.
Pay for performance.
Exactly. Absolutely. And so,
whereas when you're a W-2 employee, it's kind of capped. Like,
right.
If your performance is good, the company gets that. And then the hope is
that they'll increase it a bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe they will.
And maybe they won't. Yeah. And so that's what I think is like the advantage, is like, because if the census is low, you get to get creative. Yep. It's an opportunity. It's not a problem.
When you're your own thing.
Yeah, when you're your own thing. Yeah. And like it's happened a couple times when there's a low census.
You don't have much say in that.
Right. And I got to grow in different areas. Right. And now those areas are growing and building more. So now when the census is high,
nice.
I have both.
I can tell you don't like being in business one bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Awesome.
Let's go.
I know I'm going to change the subject again.
Sure.
I know you're doing something a little bit different in addition to OT, and I think they work very closely together.
Oh yeah, very.
This is your NLP. Neuro-linguistic programming, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good job.
And when you said cognitive dissonance, does that connect up to NLP?
Yes. They don't use that theory or social structure necessarily.
Okay.
Yet it's totally involved. And so neurolinguistic programming is basically a manual for how to navigate your brain and how to navigate your relationships and people that you love.
All right.
That's what I would say.
Okay.
And so like understanding that NLP, neuro, is looking at, okay, there's 2 million bits of information coming at me moment by moment, every moment.
Right.
And your conscious brain can only take 126 bits of that 2 million.
Okay.
So it's like, okay, now why? So then if you look at your modalities, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, or your olfaction, smell, or even gustatory, taste, those are your 5 senses. That's filtering it. Then you're deleting things, generalizing, and distorting so that it can fit your internal representation of what that means. Of the 126 bits, that's when it forms. So it's like, out of the 126 bits and the 2 million that was presented to you, is there maybe a chance that you're missing something?
I would say.
The answer is yes, right? And so it's just so empowering on the neuro side to see that and then go to the linguistics part. So linguistics is the language that we use and how powerful it is.
Absolutely.
And there's ways to talk to different levels of mind. So there's the conscious mind, right, which is your goal setter. Your subconscious mind, the goal getter, and the superconscious, right? And that's just your divine connection, where everything you touch in a way is on purpose. And so if the subconscious is doing all the work, it's making my heart beat without me having to think about it, it's creating the results that I want in my life, then what if I was to get a little more intentional on my conscious mind, the executive decisions, that will change how I'm perceiving things, because interpretation is perception. Perception is interpretation.
What is it that wakes me up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m.? Like, I can't solve a problem all day long, and I wake up at 3 a.m. and go, aha! Or some people call it shower thinking.
Yeah.
You're in the shower, wash your hair, and all of a sudden you go, I know the answer to what I was thinking about yesterday at 4:45.
Yeah.
What is that?
That's you tapping into the subconscious.
Yeah, I thought
the
so.
subconscious mind. Exactly what that is.
Or it's busting through.
Yeah, exactly.
It's solved it.
Well, look at Think and Grow Rich. Right, Napoleon Hill literally told his subconscious mind before he went to bed, I need a title for this book. It was going to be the 13 Principles of Wealth.
Was it?
It was.
I didn't know this story.
He asked his subconscious mind, what is going to be the best title? And he just went to bed, fell asleep, woke up the next morning with the answer.
No kidding.
Think and Grow Rich.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the power of the subconscious mind. And like,
it's powerful.
How do you tap into that? Awareness. That's what the Abundance Life Coaching, that's the 3 principles right away. Is ABC, awareness before change. So as I enhance my awareness of my awareness, that's when everything can change, right? Because before you were stuck, you're oblivious, you're blind, and you're just working in a way that might have been good motives.
You're just stuck on maybe this life sucks, or this maybe a negative slant,
or this is just the way that I am. Which isn't true. It's the way that you've been, but it's not the way that you are. Because that's not how God made us.
Sounds powerful.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. You're changing people's lives, both in OT and in NLP.
Yes.
And I know you're on fire for this.
Amen, brother. Thank
you. Anybody that knows you.
Yeah, it's been fun. And that's what's cool, too, about the life coaching side of things. So I'm now hypnotherapy certified and mental emotion release certified. That's through NLP. With Dr. Matt James. Amazing man to follow and work with. And I would say that in that realm is where people can let go of the baggage that is holding them back. The belief systems, the limiting beliefs, the limiting decisions that have been holding them back this whole time, where the subconscious and the ego believes that it's protecting you, because it is, but it's not serving you. And so that's when, if we let those things go, there's a whole new life to tap into.
So if somebody wanted to explore that more with Dr. Jimmy, how would they get a hold of you? How would they find out more about abundance?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, they could go to the website, abundancelifecoaching.com. They could email me at Jimmy LaRowe at abundancelife-coaching.com. They could get on Instagram, look up me at Jimmy LaRowe, JIMMYLAROWE, or Abundance Life Coaching. Yeah, either of those will get a hold of all of our coaches, because we have several that are getting their practitioner licenses and everything else so that they can do the same.
Do they smile as much as you?
You know what? There's one in particular that I'm thinking of, and that's a yes.
Yeah. Great. I got one last question for you as we wrap up.
Yeah.
So, I can tell that you worked on all this. Is there anything looking backwards that you would tell your past self? Maybe so that, I don't know, I'm not saying you'd take a shortcut, your past self.
Sure.
But is there anything you would tell your past self?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would, depends on which past self I get to talk to. But I think any of them would have heard me.
Okay.
And so I know what my past self needed, and that was a relationship with me. I had a relationship with God eventually, but before that I had nothing. No relationship with anything. And so I think empowering myself to encourage, like, hey, Jimmy, tell me a little bit about what my inner child was like, who's been holding onto my leg saying, hey, love me. Do you see me? He's been doing that. And before I was pushing him away. But now I'm like, hey, buddy, I do see you. I love you, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm here. And now that I'm whole with my inner child, I can also get in touch with my higher self, who also chases Jesus. That's my standard.
Yep.
But only then have I been able to tap into my abundance. And so I would love the chance to talk to the old me, because if that would have happened,
can you imagine how life-changing that would be?
I would have had more emotional discipline, emotional fitness.
Yep.
I would have had quality boundaries.
Yep.
I would have been able to communicate what I want.
Yes.
And that would have saved many things.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I want to thank you very much for coming on our show today.
Thank you so much.
Take this My Favorite CPA mug with you.
Please. Thank you.
As a memento.
Yeah. Cheers, brother.
Yep. And, well, here we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Cheers.
There it is.
So for my listeners, if you would like, comment, share, and subscribe, hit that bell. And if you got any comments, once again, drop them down below. We'll see you next time.